Hi everybody, this is Miss Cox. Today we're going to talk about some of the final touches for your apps. So you've been working on your Conduit mobile app, and one of the most important things is having graphics. So you're probably down on one of these steps here, but the thing is, some of you probably already jumped to looking at app icons, and some of you have added images to your app from outside of your own personal image collection that you own. So we're going to talk about that right now. Here's my app again. First off, I want to point out a couple things. One, I'm going to go to Info, and I want to point out you can add an icon to your app. Now, I went with a little craft icon, and you can go to Upload, and let's go now. You can go to Upload and add your own image, but that means you have to find an image. Now remember, you need to make sure if you're grabbing somebody else's images, you use Creative Commons, because if you don't do that, you're really stealing somebody else's images, and if you ever want to share your app, that's going to be illegal if you don't use Creative Commons. So make sure you use Creative Commons, and if you're making an app and you're the only one who's going to use it, you're never going to share it. It's not that big of a deal, but if you ever want to share this app with other people, you really do need Creative Commons images. So first off, there's lots of options here. You guys are familiar with this, but I want to point out Pixabay. I want to point out Pixabay for a minute. And remember, you can uncheck these. As long as you know you're not going to sell it, it doesn't matter. So as long as you're going to have your app be free, you don't need it to be used for commercial purposes. So uncheck those boxes, and I'm going to look up crafting. Let's see what comes up. Pixabay comes up with all sorts of stuff. I kind of like, this is kind of cool, this is kind of cool. Oh, but the problem is these are Shutterstock images on top. It's actually an advertisement. You usually have to pay for those images. So let me scroll down and find something I like, because I want to point some things out to you. Let's say I like this image. It's colorful, it's got lots of different strings, but I do want to point out there are some different options here with certain images. If I go down here to license, this license for this image is in the public domain. So no copyright. It's not even Creative Commons. Public domain works. You are free to use it. You don't have to even cite it. No permission. You can use it for commercial work. You don't have to say who it came from. So one of the reasons I'm going to say to use Pixabay. Pixabay actually has a lot of public domain images, and those are great for your app because you don't have to cite the creator. So I could use this image without actually having to cite anybody, which is great. Makes it very easy for me, and this is a nice colorful image. This would be a great background picture actually for my app. So to do that, you can go to save the image. I'm just going to save it in the pictures folder. There's nothing in there. And let me go back to Conduit, and let's say I want to change the splash screen, because right now it just says Conduit Mobile. That's kind of boring. So when the app loads, I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to browse, grab that image, and this would be the image that comes up when the app loads. And basically here you just choose what columns you want. Now these two columns, or how much of the image you want. I'm going to go with these right columns since they are kind of the coloring I use for the rest of the app. And I'm going to say save. And now what'll be cool is when my app loads up, that will be the splash screen. So instead of it being, let me update the changes and see if that changes. But basically, instead of it just saying Conduit Mobile, it should have a nice little graphic. So that's one thing you might want to change, your splash screen. You might also want to change your icon. So this icon actually, it's actually a little embroidery image of a little flower. It was a much larger image. I just took one part of it that I liked. And what's great about this icon here is this was also public domain. So it was another public domain image here where it said under license public domain, and if it says that, you're good to use it. So this was public domain. I don't have to cite it. Fabulous. Did it not like my... Oh. Well, whatever. I guess it doesn't show up unless you do it for all of them, maybe? You might want to put some marketing material in here. This isn't super important. But basically, that's one thing to think about, is definitely your splash screen and also the icon. Besides that, you may want to think about changing the background. For mine, I'm pretty happy with the background as it is, but I know some of you guys have been thinking about different backgrounds. You can upload your own background. So here, if you click on background and go to upload, you can download, you can upload your own background, which is great. The downside of that is it needs to be Creative Commons or public domain. And if it's Creative Commons, you have to cite who created it. So a lot of students have asked me, well, where do I cite who created the image? Well, if you use any Creative Commons images, you're going to have to go to this Content tab, and you're going to need a page that is, you'll need a page that's a custom page. My custom page is the how-to page. I called it how-to. It's custom page. And basically the custom page lets you write whatever you want. You can add links. You can change the color of text. It's kind of like Microsoft Word or a blog entry that you would have freedom to format as you wish. I'm working on getting some tutorials here, but I also am going to put down image credits. And so at the bottom I'll put down, I could put down background image thanks to blah blah blah, or I could even put Creative Commons CC background image thanks to blah, and then you just basically can list off the different people as long as you're saying which image you're giving credit to them for. So for example, I might say app Creative Commons app icon image thanks to blah blah blah. So basically, if you use Creative Commons images, it's totally fine to do that, but you do need to find a place in your app to cite the creators. So in my app, I'm probably going to put it in this how-to section because it's easy for me to put that at the bottom since I can design this myself. You will have to play around with this. Right now, one thing I'm noticing is it's not putting spacing in between my tutorials. So I'm going to have to kind of look into that and see. I'll have to see if I can fix that. But basically, you're going to have to play around with this. This is not as beautiful as some of the other tabs. So some of my other pages listed here are much more attractive looking. So keep that in mind. That is something to consider when you are designing your app. If you only use public domain images, you don't have to worry about this, which is great. You don't have to cite it. Your app looks beautiful. It looks smooth and professional, and you don't have to worry about it. Remember though, if you don't use Creative Commons images, you should not be sharing your app with anyone, because as soon as it makes it out of your hands, if you share it with your friend and they share it with somebody else, you could be sued eventually. So it's just not worth the risk if a company was upset with you for using their images or an individual. So make sure if you decide not to use Creative Commons images that you are only using the app yourself. And with that, that is it for images. If you get stuck with images, there's lots of image options here. Keep in mind there's photos. You can pull photos from Picasa, Facebook, Flickr, Tumblr, all sorts of different options. I liked Instagram personally, but the key is you just need a username and then an album in the username. So for example, I think my username, Ms. Cox Tech, is attached to different albums, and oh, there's some of my students' pictures. Look at that. And I can click the down arrow and I can go to the different classes. Here's 4th period. Here's 1st period. Oh, there's my dog. So the point is, you have lots of options here, but make sure you're incorporating pictures in some way. And they can be drawings, they don't have to be actual pictures. But add some images, add some video and audio if you can. The more media you're putting into your app, the more interesting it's going to be for others. When you're done with the Creative Commons stuff, you're done with the app icon, I want you to really make sure you take some time on step 9. Go through and really think about your app. Why would someone want to use your app? Is your app helpful? What could be added or removed to make it more helpful? Would you personally use your app? And ask your neighbors, would you use my app? What would make it better? Think about it, because you are making a product here, and there's no point to making a product if no one's going to use it. It's fun to do, but let's try to think about how you can make a product that's actually going to be useful to someone else, even if it's just yourself. So with that, good luck with the rest of your projects. Thank you for watching, and I hope that helped you with image citations and finding images for your apps.